Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our Plugged In webinar series, and thank you for attending today's event. My name is Maureen Murky, and I'm the host for today's webinar. At Questline Digital, we're focused on bringing value to utility companies by improving the customer experience and achieving program goals. Before we begin, we want to cover just a few important housekeeping items with you. First, we love an engaged audience. If you have any questions during the event, we encourage you to submit them in our Q&A section. Don't be shy, our presenters love questions. We also have the attendee chat open. Please feel free to use this function to chat with other attendees about what's standing out to you from the presentation, to ask questions, or just to network. To get started, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I am live from Columbus, Ohio. We will also conduct poll questions throughout the presentation, and we hope you'll join in on the fun and participate. To view those poll results, you can access the polls tab to the left of your screen. Habla usted español? Parlez-vous français? English not your native language? Check out our closed captioning feature for more options. We have 12 languages available. Finally, look for a follow-up email in your inbox this week. You'll receive the PowerPoint presentation and a playback link to the webinar recording. Now let me introduce our presenters for today. With a comprehensive career spanning over 38 years in the electric cooperative industry, Tim Mays stands out as a seasoned expert in key account management. Over 2 decades of his career were dedicated to managing key accounts at Blue Ridge Electric Cooperative, where he earned a reputation as trusted energy expert through his unwavering commitment to excellence and his pursuit of professional certifications. Tim's philosophy of effective key account management revolves around a clear understanding of what members are purchasing, the costs involved, the destination of their energy, and the strategies for better management. This approach has empowered countless members to make informed decisions and optimize their energy usage. Dennis Mingyar is the Director of Economic Development at Ohio's Electric Cooperatives, the G&T and statewide association for Ohio's electric cooperatives for the last 20 years. Previously, he was the Director of Industrial Relations at South Central Power Company for 12 years. He served in state government economic development roles for 8 years before entering the cooperative world. He is a committee member with Touchstone Energy and has served as an officer, board member, and a committee chair with the National Rural Economic Developers Association. He has both a bachelor's and a master's degree from Ohio University. Now in today's webinar, we're going to have a panel discussion with Tim and Dennis and hear more about their experiences in the world of key accounts and what strategies and best practices they'd recommend for key account manager teams across utilities. Before I kick off our discussion though, I would like to begin with a poll question. The question is, what is your biggest challenge when training new key account managers? Is it the lack of industry knowledge? Is it difficulty adapting to new technologies? Maybe it's time constraints for training. Maybe it's balancing soft and technical skills development. Or is it something else? Go ahead and choose what challenges your utility might be facing when training new key account managers. If there is a challenge that isn't listed, go ahead and put that into the chat. Hopefully through today's discussion, you'll leave with some strategies and ideas for conquering many of these challenges. Remember that you can see all poll responses by going to the poll widget on your screen. I'll keep that open for a few minutes to let the responses roll in. But for now, let's get started. Tim and Dennis, thank you both so much for joining me today. Why don't we kick things off by having you tell us just a little bit more about yourselves and your key account manager experience, maybe something that I didn't mention in your bio already.
Good. That's great. Well, thanks. Just to add to that, I did help on the Touchstone Energy Business Development Board in the commercial industrial, and also with our generating and transmission cooperative, Central Electric Power Cooperative. I chaired their commercial and industrial energy services committee.
And I'm glad to be here. I was excited to have the opportunity to speak. I've been fortunate to be in the utility world for about 32 years now and have enjoyed kind of watching the key accounts program grow across the industry from kind of somebody ends up just being there to a kind of a formalized program with training and development and the opportunity for people to grow within the positions.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Now I do have a few questions to ask you about your key account manager experience. And I'm excited to hear both of your perspectives and your insights from your years of experience in the field. For our audience members out there, again, feel free to ask any additional questions you may have in the chat box, and we'll get to those during our live Q&A at the end. Now, my first question for you both is, in your experience, what are the key qualities or skills that make a key account manager successful? And what maybe are some of those tools or resources that you might recommend for developing those skills?
A key account manager has to have a pretty broad understanding of things. So it's kind of some things, but really having a good interpersonal relationship skill to be able to talk to people is very, very important. As far as developing that, I'm not sure that there's only so much you can hone those things, but I think in selecting key account managers, that is one of the things that need to be considered. If you have a hard time talking to people, probably not going to be a good key account manager. So having those interpersonal, and then that communication skill there, having a diverse ability to speak to a diverse group, because when you go in, particularly in the industrial world, you're going to be talking with a plant manager or a CEO or whatever, and then you're going to be talking to the guy that's the maintenance manager and the guys that are working on making things happen. So you do need to be able to do that, but a really good way to develop that is you'll find that right in your own backyard. Spend some time with your linemen, spend some time with your field account reps, the guys that read the meters and things like that. And then, of course, your management people too. So that develops that. Need to have the ability to grasp some technical concepts, because with your own industry, and then particularly if you are in an industrial setting, you're going to be dealing with people that make things work. And so to have those, have an understanding or be able to grasp part of that is going to be real important there. Also problem solving. That's what a key account manager does. A lot of things work within your organization and out to limit things, because your member wants that one point of contact. I want to make one phone call and it get handled no matter what it is. So those problem solvings, and then leading into that would be you need to have some good organizational and time management skills, because you're not most key account managers are not directly supervised on a day-to-day thing. So you've got to be able to say, okay, set my goals, and then self-manage yourself. So that's really important, to be organized and do some time management skills.
I absolutely agree. Thank you, Tim. I like what you said, especially about connecting with diverse audiences and starting that by connecting with the line workers and management that's in your own backyard. Dennis, how about you?
I agree with pretty much everything Tim said. I think he was very succinct in that. I fully agree that you have to be successful as a key account manager. You have to be able to speak to people. You have to value interpersonal skills. I saw a quote just the other day as we kind of got ready for this. It said, you need to be more people and less PowerPoint. And I think that's really true.
That's good.
If you can't talk to someone, if you can't connect with someone, if you can't understand someone's purpose, you probably don't need to be you probably don't want to be in key accounts, because you've got to get to know people ahead of time. I always think that there's a quote that I've heard, Elizabeth Warren has been attributed to saying it, but I first heard it from a gentleman by the name of Ken Novak, who was with Alabama Power, which says the time to make a best friend is not when you need a best friend.
That's right.
So you need to be out there ahead of time, meeting your key accounts, whether they be a manufacturing operation, a distribution operation, or someone in the community that is important to your community, the local economic development director, the president of the commissioners, the mayor. That varies. The term key account can vary a lot, I think, depending on the co-op and the co-op's purpose. But you have to be able to talk to those people, and you have to understand, and I think Tim said this really well, within that key account community, you are the face of the co-op.
That's right.
You may be the only person they ever know, because they're not outside when the lineman's climbing a pole or a meter reader is testing the meter, or something of that nature, you are that face of the co-op. And you have to remember that you have to be able to communicate internally, as Tim said, with the line crews, with your line supervisor, with your engineering department, because you are your key accounts ombudsman within your company. So I think sometimes the best way you can say your day is it's a day where probably you've pleased nobody totally, but you've got nobody mad at you. And then that's a good day for a key accounts rep, because you are the face of your key account within your company, but you are the face of your company within your key account.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with you there. For my next question, what are some of the common challenges in training and development that you see across key account manager teams?
I think the challenge is to where you entered the industry from.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of and it depends. This can vary by cooperative, it can vary by GNT. So I entered the industry, as you said in my bio. I came in out of the economic development world, became involved with key accounts, managed a key account staff, and still am responsible for, at the GNT level, our key accounts association. But I came in with non-technical skills. I can do fine work in a room, but I am not a technical person. I'm not an engineer or anything of that nature. So the challenge is, if you come out of one world, you have to pick up the skills of another world. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn as best I could about the technical side of the industry, but also realize my shortcomings that were never going to change, and know when to take an engineer, know when to take an operations person with me. And on the flip side, if you came in from the technical world, then you may have to learn to be able to be comfortable in social settings, mm-hmm. or in conversational settings with someone, to develop that friendship to then be able to solve the problem.
When I started key accounts, it was very, very early on. Deregulation was a big, huge thing. That's why they created Touchstone and all those things in the co-op world, because there was a chance that these large loads would be lost if deregulation kicked in. So early on, you had most people that did key accounts were from within the co-op world, and pretty much all of them were males. And then over the years, you've had other people come into the industry from outside, and then there's a lot of females doing key accounts these days too, which is a great thing. But just to be able to grasp the technical part, just be able to have a conversational to understand it. I got a lot of help from our engineers. They were really good about helping me understand the technical side. They were able to break it down kind of in a normal person's technology. So I would encourage people, if you're not very technical savvy, spend some time with your engineers and get them to help you to understand what do we do, what are we doing here, what kind of business are we in, and then how does that impact that account that I'm dealing with, because you've really got to be able to explain that, and then, like Dennis says, you got to know when you don't know, and let me get one of my engineers to go with you. And they like doing that. They really do enjoy, like, hey, I need you to come in and help with this. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the engineer folks were very, very good to me. And then you really need to have a good concept of your financial business, because people don't think about utilities being a business, but we are. And to be able to communicate that, I tried to communicate with our accounts, like when they would question things. Okay, let's look at your business and let me break that down and make it okay. If you were in the power business, this is what it would be. So that helped out too. So getting that understanding is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both of you, a key thing there is that you know what you know and you don't what you don't. So it's important to lean on those folks around you who have those skills that maybe you're trying to develop. So great advice there. Thank you both. Now, this is something that I know we've talked about in our discussions. So please, I would love to hear more from you about why is relationship building so important for key account managers? And do you have any suggestions for how KAMs can successfully build those relationships?
Relationships build trust. So if you've got a relationship, people, and they trust you, then trust opens a lot of doors, and it gives you a lot of forgiveness too. When you've got that trust built there, the biggest thing is you're going to be challenged when you have to walk in and say, hey, we're going up on your rate, and have to explain that. So if they trust you, then they're gonna, okay, so the relationship is huge. A couple of you put on your some resources there. A couple that I've used that are really neat is, and share it with everybody, is, and there's all different kinds of personality typing, strategies and things. But there's a book that I use called The Two Sides of Love by John Trent and Gary Smalley, and they use the animals, and it's just a lot easier to kind of, the lion, the otter, the beaver, and the golden retriever. But they talk about that and how, understanding those as strengths, that can help you and they give you some guidelines about, okay, if I've identified Dennis as a lion, it helps you understand, okay, he's a lion. So when I go talk to Dennis, I need to make sure, I don't cut up. I don't, so it gives you some good resources there, how to cross-pollinate with them and understand who you are, what your personality type is. And typically your key account guys are going to be the otters in the ring, and so that helps there. And then there's a book I recently found. I didn't use it in there. It's the 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace by Gary Chapman and Paul White. That one's huge. I mean, a lot of people may have heard about the 5 love languages. It's the same guys that did that, but they put it into a work setting. So that helps you on your internal. And then as you develop a relationship and you understand that person by studying this stuff, then you can be very strategic and effective about, we bring them a key account gift. Well, they may not like, that may not be anything. So those are two resources I highly recommend. And then be a student of the key account industry, whatever their industry is. You need to look, are there any associations that you could be a part of to get on a mailing list? Because letting them know that you know what they do is very important. And as far as that relationship, I call it conversationally proficient, where you can speak the language, some of the acronyms and things like that. And you really have to be an expert in your business. Because again, you said it on my intro, that if you can't go in and explain to them what they're buying, how much are they paying for it, where is it going, and what can I do to better manage it, you're not going to have a lot of credibility going in there.
Awesome. Thank you. I definitely know I'm going to look up those 2 books after we're done here. Dennis, why don't you go ahead?
Absolutely. I'm going to look at Tim's books as well. I've not encountered those, so I'm learning off of this webinar as well as I perhaps giving a little knowledge. At Ohio's Electric Cooperatives, we try to do a number of recreational events or social events for our key accounts that develop a relationship. And, sometimes you'll be amazed over the course of an evening what you can learn about their industry that they're telling you that would probably be not comfortable if it happened. So for example, we divide the state into regions, and we host 5 minor league baseball games, inviting 4 to 5 of our co-ops to each of those games. They bring their key accounts as they determine what a key account is. We have a private suite. It's catered and such, and it allows people to get to know each other, sometimes no spouses, no children, have an understanding of that. We also have a house, hospitality house at the Memorial Golf Tournament at Muirfield Country Club in Columbus. It's a PGA event. And again, our cooperatives, we purchase the tickets. The cooperatives bring their key accounts. They spend the day with them. They come to the house for lunch. They walk, they talk. It just develops a relationship. Going back to Tim's point, now you know each other. You still can have hard discussions, but you now know a person, and it's easier to have that discussion. I fully agree too with Tim's discussion about you've got to know their industry, maybe how it bills, what is valuable, what are their ups to their season, down to their season. It'll make you seem more understanding. It keeps you from saying things that would make you look really silly. Early in my career, our company had an ice cream factory on the lines, and they were perpetually slow in paying. Let's just say that way. And someone said, well, we can just turn them off. And I said, okay, we can turn them off. But as soon as we turn them off, the streets are going to run white with ice cream as it melts and rolls out of that factory. They then have nothing to sell, and we will never get paid. So again, I know that's a really simplistic one, perhaps even sophomorific, but you've got to know that we had a meat packing operation at one time that sold primarily to governmental entities, mostly state parks. And it just took, the payment schedule was slower. So you had to realize that it was going to be close every month, but they would always pay. So get to know your industry. What are the peaks? What are the valleys? What challenges are they facing? This is where we need to step up and say, how can we help you in this time of challenge? What can we do to make you more energy efficient? What can we do to work with you on a rate? How can we help? Try to become a partner to your key accounts.
Our previous CEO, he says that if the meter stops, we're not making any money. So we need to do everything we can to keep that meter going. Let me just add one thing. Dennis had some strategies. What we started doing was just a lunch, and it was really neat. We just have barbecue and have a gift that we'd give them, tell them thank you. But we had our CEO was sitting with a bunch of guys that were, maintenance workers at a local factory, and just having a good discussion with them. So anytime you can get people out of their normal environment and personalize, that's very, very good. And see, and at that lunch, we would bring our staff in and allow them to, like you say, some of them, I would be the only face they ever knew. So that would give you an opportunity to meet some of our people and all. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you both. Yeah. Those events on all levels and meeting people one-to-one, it's really powerful. So I appreciate hearing that from both of you. I'm going to take a brief pause here to let you catch your breath while I ask another poll question to our audience attendees. My question for everyone is, how often does your utility upgrade training programs for key account managers to include the latest industry trends and technologies? Is it quarterly, annually, every few years, or maybe you don't have a regular update schedule? Let me know in your responses how often your utility updates its training programs for its KAMs. And again, I will keep that open for a few minutes while we continue on. So my next question for you, Tim and Dennis, is this. How do you suggest key account manager teams approach training for both current and new employees? Again, I know we've talked about that concept of passing the baton from those who may be retiring to those who are new to the industry. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, a couple of things we do is we try to take advantage of the good programs. We encourage people. I certainly went through it. And I took my staff through it, and we continue that today. We try to take advantage of NRECA's Certified Key Accounts Executive Program. I think it was just really instrumental at that time. I think it's a great program across the board. I think it's particularly good for someone who's coming out of the technical side of a company at a distribution co-op and needs to learn perhaps how to do business skills. I think it's excellent. I thoroughly enjoyed it and learned a considerable amount from it. We've instituted, I became certified to give the Touchstone Energy Culture of Key Accounts class, which is kind of a nice refresher. You go out to your co-ops, you give it. It helps the co-op realize the purpose of the class, as I feel it, is to make everybody in the co-op realize they are a key accounts rep. From the person who answers the door to the person who loads vehicles in the warehouse to a lineman out on the field. So I think that's another great program we've done. And it's good because it's personalized to your co-op. So they're not hearing about companies or manufacturing facilities that they don't have. It's personalized to your own personal load. So we do that a lot. We encourage our people to go to the Touchstone Energy Next conference as well. It's a chance to meet with your peers from across the country and learn But again, kind of going back to what Tim said, it's also hearing from what industry wants in a little bit of a different setting, but you're meeting with people away in a learning environment, and it's a good advice. We also then tried to always encourage, and I think we still do, people to go to things that they feel they need the skills in and try to support that, whether it be a local community college, a local technical college. What are your needs and how can we best find those avenues to address that?
You really need to understand your industry and become that trusted energy expert. When I first started at Blue Ridge, they put me about a week at a time in every department to get to know. So I would encourage anyone, if you've got a new key account hire, take them and start them from, okay, when a person comes in to sign up for power, start there and follow that all the way through your organization to see, where it goes, why is it there, and it also gives you a time to build that internal relationship with your coworkers that you probably don't. Because if you come in as a key account executive and you don't get to know your linemen and you don't get to know the people that answer the phones, you're not going to have that good credibility. So that gives you a great opportunity there. Just take it from the time I sign up until it spits the bill out, and then we go there. That was very helpful for me. And then as far as passing the baton, a lot of co-ops and maybe even all industries that don't let you spend enough time, I would recommend, spending at least a year with the existing key account manager and just work through the whole process of, okay, how do I develop my list? How do I prioritize that list? How do I establish who I'm going to call on, how I'm going to call on them, planning any kind of events, things like that. Because you can sit down and try to assimilate all that in one, a few months. But if they're allowed to work alongside for a full year, that would be very, very good to do that. So
I would echo Tim's words 100%. A year is a good number. That allows you. I was fortunate when I went to the distribution cooperative, South Central Power Company, that they allowed me to spend a week in member services and a week in with our right-of-way crew and a week riding with operations supervisors and just a week, maybe 2 weeks sometimes, and then back and forth. And you just learn a lot. Yeah. And that was invaluable. And
you create those relationships with those guys, those people too.
That you won't normally work. They may never have met you before. Right. And it's a good way to do it. And then don't be scared to go do it again later on if you have the opportunity.
And now we are running out of time, unfortunately, so I'm going to end with just one last question. So Tim and Dennis, what final words of wisdom or advice would you have for our friends in the audience who are trying to improve their key account manager training programs or teams?
Okay, well, I'll just kind of reiterate, become the expert in your industry and train, become familiar with who your key accounts are and how your industry impacts them and how you can facilitate that and communicate internally and externally.
I agree with Tim on communication. Realize that your role is to be the face of your company to an industry and the face of the industry to your company. Your job is to help each party know more about the other party. You are their representative. Even though your shirt may say ABC Cooperative, you're really representing the manufacturer inside your company. And you're doing the same with your cooperative to the company. So realize that you are the representative.
Awesome. Again, thank you both so much. This was really fun to chat with you today. But of course, we are not done yet. I'm going to push one final poll question out before we jump into that live Q&A. So my last question for the audience is this. Which aspect of key account manager development do you feel needs the most attention at your utility? Is it onboarding new hires from outside the industry? Is it ongoing technical skills training? Maybe it's enhancing communication and relationship building skills. Maybe it's cross-department collaboration training, Or is it all of the above? All right, that question will stay open again as I now invite Tim and Dennis to join me live on stage for Q&A. Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us today. Tim, it is great to see you again.
Good to be here.
And we have Dennis calling in. Dennis, can you hear me okay?
I'm on the phone.
Perfect. Welcome, welcome.
Hey.
Awesome. All right. So I do have a few more questions for you as we wait. Everyone else, please feel free to send in some questions to the Q&A, or you can put them just in the attendee chat as well, and I will see them and answer and ask them for Tim and Dennis. But Tim and Dennis, to just get us started here with Q&A, I'd love to ask you from a key account manager perspective, how do you handle outages and communicating important information to your customers during those kinds of situations?
I'll go first, Dennis.
Go
ahead.
Go right ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Tim, it's all yours.
Tim, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. All right. Well, this is probably the most strategic role that you can play as a key account manager. When the power goes out, or when there's a flicker, or because manufacturers, they don't like any kind of reliability or anything. So it's a lot of the outage packages are very sophisticated now with messaging and things like that. So, I mean, it has come a tremendous way, but to be able to, if you can proactively let the member know, hey, I know you're out, or I know the power just flickered. Here's what we're doing. Here's the timeline. Here's the thing. But to be able, and particularly sometimes, heaven forbid, you have multiple days outage, it's very critical if industries have multiple shifts. They need to know, do I need to keep everybody home, or can I? So just that communication, and that's where you establish those internal relationships there. But outage packages now are very, very slick. One thing I'll just say we did, because sometimes your linemen don't think it's very important to communicate how long it's going to be. Just like, we're going to get the power on, don't worry about it. And so I brought some folks in from the school district and then one of our manufacturers, and let them just talk. We have a safety meeting and let them just say, here's what I have to do if the power's out. Here's the decisions I make. Here's how much money it costs. If it flickers, this is how much product I lose, that kind of thing. And so that was a real eye opener and we were able to get some good feedback and let them understand, hey, is it going to be an hour or hours or days, so they can make their decisions. But that's where you really, really earn your keep. I'll brag a little bit. We had one of our school districts, and he said, and to all of our linemen, he says, when I get the message that a school's out, I pray it's Blue Ridge, because I know you guys are going to get the power right back on as quick as possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Dennis, do you have anything else to add?
I would agree with everything Tim said. I mean, one is, again, be proactive. If you think there's going to be an outage, and again, this comes with building internal trust too. You need to make sure that your operations department is talking to you and saying, we're going to have to take this circuit down, this line down, and so that you can then relay that information, because as Tim said, a flicker can throw a production line off. Can throw a production line off in a company, and they have to spend hours then resetting equipment. And so it's good to try to be proactive. Try to make sure your company is telling you if there's even going to be, if they think of any chance of a flicker. And then the third thing is, and this may sound sophomorific, and if it is, I apologize, but I would explain oftentimes to our major customers that when there's an outage, the meter is our cash register, so to speak. And we're not making money either if there's an outage. And I had one company say to me, I never thought about it from that side. Your bottom line is hurting as well when there's an outage. And so that gives them that, realize it helps them to understand you're both in the same boat to some degree. Also, an outage can go far better if you've taken the time ahead of time through any myriad of events to build the trust and have a relationship with whoever you're calling the company. When you have a major outage, it should not be the first time that you're talking to someone at that company, because it's going to be the situation is going to go poorly. But if you have a relationship with that person and you explain to them what has happened and when things can be corrected, you'll do a lot better. The relationship will help to have trust on both sides.
Absolutely. That is some great advice. I agree. You have to have that relationship built in place, because otherwise you don't want that first communication to be when an outage goes out. That's not what you want. That's not that relationship that you want to have between your utility and its customers. So great advice there. Thank you. I have a question in our Q&A from Laura. She says, I love the idea of exposure into other departments. It is challenging with resources and staffing to get that internal training time and get the work done. Any tips from others who do this type of onboarding? Anything from that, Tim?
Yes, I guess I answered that for just her. But if you collectively do the part of the management is to identify those key accounts and then show what is the revenue that it brings in, particularly the co-op, collectively, however many accounts you do. And then one of the things I started doing later on is, as you do your calls on them, to find out how many jobs do they represent in your community, because it's huge. It's huge when you look. Okay, this is what it brings into your company, and this is what it does for the community as far as job creation. And then it's not hard to justify a few gifts and things for those accounts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Dennis, anything to add before I hop to the next question?
No, I agree with Tim there. And if you like, I have taken several of our cooperatives, distribution cooperatives, through the Touchstone Energy's Culture of Key Accounts program, and that is one of the main facets of that. You spend a considerable amount of time. You show them the list of their major key accounts, and again, you show the jobs and you show the revenue, and it helps your internal staff to have an appreciation of just how important that key account is.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. My next question here is from Courtney as well, or Courtney. And Tim, I saw that you started answering this. So Dennis, I'll put this question to you first, and then Tim, you can jump in after if you have anything to add. But the question from Courtney is, how would you recommend a new key account program figure a budget? I worry about spending member money on key account appreciation events.
I think you have to look at the other side of it. What is the cost if you don't have that relationship with the customer, the key account, and then the outage occurs? Or what is the cost if you could develop a relationship and you can help that company win an internal competition within their firm for an expansion project, which increases the revenue you receive from that facility? Yes, there is a cost, but what is the reward to that cost, and what is the benefit? And that's how I look at it. I could point you in an offline conversation to project expansions or companies that have stayed in the community because their relationship was developed at an event and people were comfortable talking freely after that to each other because they viewed themselves as peers. And so I think the cost is minimal toward when you compare it to the benefit.
Yeah.
Tim, did you want to add anything in addition to your response?
Not really, but Dennis reminded me of, we had a golf outing event for our key accounts, and it was really interesting that at that, two of the industries kind of started talking to each other. One was looking for a building, and then one was looking to do some expansion, and they ended up, this company sold them some property, and then they moved into the building and expanded. So, just like I said, you get people just talking to each other, things happen.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. This next question is also on the topic of budget. So Deborah asks, when experiencing extreme budget restraints resulting in the elimination of participation in customer events or sponsorships, what is your recommendation for a primary focus strategy to retain relationships and still offer effective KAM value? Tim, would you like to kick that one off?
I'm trying to read it again.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read out loud one more time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dennis, that way you can hear it again as well. So when experiencing extreme budget restraints resulting in the elimination of participation in customer events or sponsorships, what is your recommendation for a primary focus strategy to retain those relationships and still offer value?
Well, everybody experienced I guess the 2009, things got really, really tight, and people's quick come. That's when we kind of refocused that's when the barbecues started. So you just have to kind of read your folks. And then of course, COVID, made things, a lot harder there, but, on your calls, when you go to them, typically people will go. I tried to work it around lunchtime. Typically people will go everybody takes a lunch break. So, having that one-on-one, calling on them there rather than having the events. But again, that's learning your accounts, finding out what kind of restrictions. Some companies won't even let you take them to lunch. So that's just part of the getting to know the company and strategy, and then figuring out how can I show them that we do appreciate their business and want to stay in touch with them. So
thanks, Tim. Dennis, do you have anything else?
I would just say if you're under budget restraints and you can't have an event, or you can't go to community events, a chamber annual dinner or something like that, where you'll see your key accounts, then you've really got to up your efforts to call them, stay in contact with them, ask if you could just stop by and give them an update on a new substation, ask for 15 minutes of their time. You're going to have to do it that way. You're going to have to put the effort in, because you've got to keep the relationship in place.
Absolutely. Dennis, I'm going to pop this next question over to you, because it's kind of off of what you were just saying, and Tim as well. So Jonathan asks, you just mentioned a key account golf outing. With a smaller company that cannot sponsor such events, what would you recommend in terms of bringing these individuals together? So Dennis, do you want to start off? Because I know you were kind of on that train just then.
If you can't afford to put the whole event on, then I would suggest, if possible, you put a team in the Chamber of Commerce golf outing, or you put a team in the Economic Development Organization outing. You'll have to know your community. It might be the Kiwanis or the Rotary or the Lions Club, and it might not be a golf outing. It varies, but you're going to have to know what the event is in your communities and put a team in, or you yourself participate if it's the event. You have to be out there, and I may be wrong in saying this, but I think the loss, yes, it costs money, but I think the potential loss of revenue far exceeds the minimal cost to keep you connected to your key account community.
Thanks, Dennis. Tim, did you have anything else to add?
No, that's good. That's good. It's it's one of those things. If can you afford not to do it? That's the thing, because again, quantifying the revenue and the job creations and things like that those companies bring, it's if they're not there, then what kind of expense do you have? So,
Great point. Thank you. All right, a question from Laura asks, what's the next big thing in T&D account management? How do we present ourselves as a progressive and proactive partner? Tim,
you go first, Dennis.
How do you present yourself as a proactive partner? Yeah, I think you need to, again, whatever your method of communications is, and it might be a key accounts newsletter, it might be a quarterly meeting with your key accounts. You've got to let them know what you're doing. They have no idea that you're a progressive company. So you've got to come up with what communication method or methods works best for your members, but you need to make sure the key there is to make sure that people understand that you are a progressive and company meeting changing for the future.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. And Tim, anything?
Well, that comes again from being a student of your industries, and there is a lot of information out there if you get on the right mailing list. I'll give you a plug. Questline is a great service to have as far as kind of keeping up with what's the next greatest thing there. If you're in the co-op world, if you're not attending the next conference, you should do that, because that's where you get a lot of information, and there's a great networking there, finding out what's working for people there. But just again, be that student of your industry and let them know, hey, I understand what you're trying to do and what you're struggling with and where you're going. That's not real hard to do. Really, but that's the thing is show I understand your business, and here's where we're going. Again, that's the big thing. I had a plant manager that I got to see. So we would take from the co-op where you have capital credit checks. So we would hand deliver those to the big accounts, and that way you could get in to see the big guy, you know. And there was one industry we had. I would have to give him a scenario. Okay, here's where our industry's going for the next year, and how it's going to impact rates and things like that. But it was really fun. But yeah, when you bring a big check and put it in their hand, you have their ear for sure.
Definitely. All right. And then Tim, could you please just name what those two books were one more time for our audience?
Yeah, I don't have the both offers, but one is the Two Sides of Love, and I think his last name is Trent, and then the other is Five Languages of Appreciation. I know one of the authors is Gary Smalley, so yeah, you'll be able to find them that way.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. All right. So unfortunately, time flies when you're having fun, and we have reached the end of our webinar, unfortunately. So I must bring our conversation to a close. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. If you do have any additional follow-up questions, feel free to reach out and we'll get back to you. And Tim and Dennis, thank you again so much today.
Pleasure. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
It was so much.
I hope it helped.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And as a reminder to everyone else, oh, sorry, what was that, Dennis?
I said thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. And just as a reminder to everyone, an email will be sent to you shortly with presentation materials and a playback link. Again, if you have any additional questions or any feedback for us, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And there will be a brief survey at the conclusion of this event, so please don't close out your browser. We would really appreciate your feedback. And registration for our next webinar will be open soon on our website, so keep an eye out for it, and we will see you again soon. Thank you again for attending, everyone, and take care.
Thanks.
Take care.